Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something kind of weird but also brilliant, the connection between how a moth flies and the future of quantum computing. Yeah, it's a wild story about how nature is helping us solve some of our toughest problems.
I know, it sounds like a trick question, right? What on earth could a moth possibly have to do with computer chips and AI? But believe it or not, the answer is connecting biology to some major breakthroughs in computer science. So, to get how this works, we got to step back for a second and talk about a puzzle that we all deal with every single day, even if we don't realize it. And that is the simple challenge of putting things in the right order.
And look, this applies to pretty much everything. If you're planning a bunch of deliveries, the order you visit each stop can be the difference between a quick, efficient day and a total logistical nightmare. Well, that exact same idea applies deep inside our computers.
Okay, so let's take this idea of order matters and bring it into the world of computing. This is where we meet a really powerful, but also really tricky data structure called a binary decision diagram. You'll hear it called a BDD.
So what is a BDD? Well, the easiest way to picture it is like a super efficient flowchart that only deals with yes or no questions. At every single point, you ask, is this thing true or false? And depending on your answer, you follow a different path down the chart until you get to your final answer.
And this is where it gets absolutely wild. Both of these diagrams you're looking at, they are solving the exact same problem. That huge, messy thing on the left and the nice, tidy little diagram on the right are doing the same job. The only difference between them was the order in which the questions were asked.
And that right there is the entire goal. That's the whole game. Just by changing the sequence, you can shrink that diagram down dramatically. And a smaller diagram means a faster process that uses way less memory. And when you're dealing with really complex systems, that's a huge deal.
Okay, so the goal seems easy enough, right? Just find the order that gives you the smallest possible diagram. Well, here's the catch. Finding that perfect order isn't just difficult. It's what people in computer science call an impossible problem.
Yeah, there's a fancy term for this, NP-complete. And all you really need to know is that it's a special class of problems where the number of possible answers is so mind-bogglingly huge that you could never, ever check them all. The possibilities just explode.
Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, for a problem with only 41 different variables, the number of possible orders you'd have to check is 41 factorial, which is this number. I mean, look at it. There aren't enough computers on Earth to check all those options before the sun burns out. It's just not possible. So if you can't brute force it, what do? Well, you get creative. And scientists looked for inspiration from the best problem solver out there, one that's been running experiments for billions of years. Mother Nature. And this is so cool. It basically led to two big families of nature-inspired problem solving. On one side, you have genetic algorithms, which, as the name suggests, copy evolution. And on the other, you have swarm intelligence, which mimics how animals work together in groups. Genetic algorithms are kind of like digital evolution. You start with a big population of random solutions. Then you find the best ones and you breed them by mixing and matching their parts. That's called crossover. You also throw in some random little changes called mutations to see what happens. And you do this over and over, and after many generations, you evolve a pretty amazing solution. Now, swarm algorithms, they're a whole different beast. They copy the behavior of groups like bees looking for nectar or wolves hunting. And the one we're really interested in today is that last one, moth flame optimization. Yep, you heard that right. It's an algorithm based on how a moth spirals toward a light. All right, so you've got Team Evolution versus Team Swarm. The big question became, which one is better for tackling this insane BDD ordering problem? Researchers decided to put them to the test in a head-to-head showdown. And the results? Wow, they were not even close. You can see here the old-school computer method, sifting, ended up with a BDD size of almost 2,200 nodes. But look at the genetic algorithm. It slashes that down to just 1,220. That's a huge improvement. Okay, so what about within Team Swarm? This graph tells the story perfectly. Each line is a different swarm algorithm trying to find the best solution over time. Lower is better. And see that orange line for the moth flame algorithm? It just dives down, way faster and way lower than the others. That spiral search pattern is really zeroing in on a great solution. And here's the final verdict from the research. When it came to the biggest, nastiest, most complex problems, the swarm algorithms, especially our little moth-inspired friend, they actually came out on top, even beating the genetic algorithms.
Their ability to explore broadly and then dive deep into good areas gave them the winning edge.
Okay, this is all fascinating, but what's the real-world payoff? I mean, who cares if a moth algorithm is good at a math puzzle? Well, it turns out it matters a lot, especially when we start talking about building the next generation of technology, like quantum computers.
This is where we get into some really futuristic stuff, designing quantum circuits. The whole process is super complicated, but as you can see from this flowchart, that BDD optimization step is right there, smack in the heart of the process. So if you can make that step better and more efficient, the whole thing gets better.
And when I say better, I mean, just look at these numbers. This table shows the final quantum cost. Think of it as how expensive and complex the final circuit is. The standard method gave a cost of over $19,000, but using the Moth algorithm first, that cost dropped to just over $9,000. It literally cut the complexity of the quantum circuit in half. That's not just an improvement, that's a revolution.
So what's the bottom line here? It's that a smarter algorithm, one we literally borrowed from a simple moth, is helping us build quantum computers that are more powerful, more efficient, and less likely to make errors. It's a perfect example of how a better algorithm can literally build a better future.
And that really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If the secret to building a better quantum computer was hidden in the flight path of a moth, what other amazing, elegant solutions are out there, right in front of us in the natural world, just waiting for us to notice?